Get ready for a story that will blow your mind. Imagine enormous cities, super advanced for their time, with two-story houses, indoor bathrooms, and urban planning that would be envied even today. Imagine a people who created their own writing system, a system of weights and measures perfect for trade, and who prospered for hundreds of years. Now, imagine all of this, suddenly, vanishing from the map, swallowed by time, leaving behind only the echo of their greatness. Yes, one of the greatest and most mysterious ancient civilizations simply vanished, without a final battle, without a glorious invader. Gone. And the truth behind this disappearance is even more surprising. In the heart of this ancient land, a people stood out for their intelligence and organization. They built monumental urban centers like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, true feats of engineering and urban planning. The streets were laid out with precise layouts, the houses were built with uniform bricks, and a complex sewage system ran beneath everything, ensuring hygiene and well-being for thousands of people. Wastewater was drained out of the cities through canals, demonstrating a concern for public health not seen again for millennia in many other civilizations. This was a world where standardization reigned, from the size of bricks to the seals used for trade, suggesting a strong central administration and a highly disciplined people who depended directly on the wealth generated by the fertile plains and the pulsating life of the rivers to sustain this urban complexity and a surprising lifestyle. For centuries, the pace of life in these great cities was dictated by an invisible but vital element: the climate. Torrential rains brought by the monsoons ensured that the rivers remained swollen, flooding the fields and depositing nutrient-rich sediments that fertilized the soil. It was a cycle of abundance, where agriculture flourished and food was plentiful. Farmers worked in harmony with nature, planting and harvesting grain on a scale that sustained not only the smallest villages but also bustling metropolises. The people, perhaps unaware of their utter dependence, celebrated each monsoon as a divine blessing, building their faith and way of life around this natural bounty. Religious leaders likely coordinated prayers and rituals that ensured the continuation of these life-saving rains, making the agricultural cycle the core of their cultural and spiritual existence. However, a silent and relentless enemy began to manifest itself. The monsoons, once a clockwork order, became weaker and more unpredictable. Instead of abundant rains and controlled floods that fertilized the soil, came long periods of drought or, worse, erratic and destructive floods that destroyed crops and homes. The Sarasvati River, which was the backbone of many communities, began to dry up, transforming from a majestic waterway into a dusty, cracked riverbed. With each passing year, the battle for water grew fiercer. Desperate peasants watched their fields wither and their granaries empty. Uncertainty hung in the air like a cloud of dust, and the fear of famine became a brutal reality, with leaders and sages struggling to find answers or solutions to a catastrophe beyond their control. With land becoming increasingly unproductive and water becoming a rare luxury, life in large cities became unsustainable. The luster of urban centers began to fade, not from a violent invasion, but from the gradual erosion of their livelihoods. The complex drainage and water supply systems, once the pride of civilization, began to clog and become ineffective. There were no longer enough people or resources to maintain them. The grand houses that had sheltered prosperous families were gradually abandoned, and the markets, once full of life and hustle and bustle, fell silent. The people, the same people who had once enjoyed so much comfort and organization, now faced an impossible choice: stay and face hunger, or leave in search of hope in distant lands, a decision that completely shattered their beliefs and their faith in their former home. Thus began the Great Exodus. Thousands of people, from entire families to communities, were forced to leave behind the polished bricks and well-laid streets their ancestors had so painstakingly built. The cities, once symbols of their greatness, became gigantic necropolises, full of memories and empty of life. They migrated slowly eastward, toward the Ganges River basin, seeking the water and fertile land their ancestral home could no longer provide. This journey was a testament to human resilience, but also a cruel reminder of how capricious nature can be. Each step away from home was a piece of civilization lost. Each group that dispersed to different areas took with them hope, but left behind the unity and grandeur of an increasingly distant past. The complex society of the Indus Valley began to fragment. The symbols of their identity, such as the unique script and the standardized system of weights and measures, gradually fell into disuse, forgotten or transformed into rudimentary versions by the scattered communities. International trade with distant regions, such as Mesopotamia, ceased, severing the last ties that connected civilization to the larger world. What remained was not nothingness, but a radical transformation. Large cities gave way to smaller, more isolated villages and farms. The sense of collective identity and the grand, sophisticated lifestyle faded, replaced by the daily struggle for survival in fragmented communities, where the goal was simply to carry on, even if it meant forgetting much of what their ancestors had achieved and believed to be an absolute truth and a promised destiny. Looking back at this shocking history of disappearance, it is impossible not to connect with the challenges we face today. Just as the ancient peoples of the Indus Valley saw their way of life disrupted by climate change and resource scarcity, we in the 21st century are confronted with global problems that threaten our very existence. Whether it's the lack of water in large urban centers, the increase in extreme weather events, or the pressure on natural resources, history tells us that civilizations, no matter how advanced, are not immune to the overwhelming force of nature, and that our neglect of the environment can have consequences as devastating as those that led to the disappearance of an empire. And you, what did you think of this breathless story? Were you already familiar with this impressive yet melancholic side of antiquity? What emotions or thoughts did this narrative evoke in you? Share your honest opinion, your reactions, or any questions you may have in the comments. We love interacting with you. If you enjoyed the video and are fascinated by these ancient mysteries, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything, and hit the notification bell. There's much more shocking and unbelievable content about humanity's secrets to come.